Okay, so thank you everyone for your patience as we navigate this new technology world that we are currently living in. So I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of the First Nations, Métis and Inuit Education Association of Ontario. This webinar is couldn't be possible without our relationship and partnership with the Math Knowledge Network, to which we are lead in a community of practice for the province of Ontario in the area of Indigenous knowledge and mathematics. Our association is an educator association, and so our work primarily is in regards to Indigenous education throughout Ontario, and providing resources, supports for educators, and certainly being a strong voice to the ministry in terms of trying to make better changes in the education system. So our work, sorry about this. 1 second. So our work is guided by a Provincial Elders Advisory Council, which I want to acknowledge some of those people are here tonight with us. And everything that we do is in regards to their direction and support and guidance. Most of our elders are fluent language speakers and former residential school survivors. And so we take their direction, and that guides our work. And so I'm going to turn it over now to our host, Dr. Karen Recollet, and she's going to introduce herself, and we'll go over a couple more logistical pieces just before we get started.
Thank you, Jody. Welcome, everybody. This is a very beautiful and exciting event. It's something certainly that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and just to be sitting with you as witnesses, with the participants in this conversation is definitely just incredible. So my name is Karen Recollet, and I work at the Women and Gender Studies Institute at the University of Toronto. I am a Cree person. I consider myself part of the urban diaspora. I'm a 60 scoop survivor, originally from Sturgeon Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. I'm a mother. I have an 8-year-old daughter named Gracie. And I've just been always interested in thinking about ways of forming relationships with celestial, with the stars, and thinking through how urban folks in the cities connect with land, or a form of landing through their relationships with space and stars. So this is definitely a thrill for me to be moderating this conversation today. I hope that this moment in time sees you and your family well. I know that this is an interesting moment for such a conversation, and we hope that it inspires you and feels good at this moment in time. So I just want to go over a couple of things. This is, we're calling it webinar etiquette. So it's sort of like digital protocols of being in good relation with each other. And for this particular gathering, which we're witnessing tonight, we are asking of you to keep your video off if you are not a presenter or invited witness. Stay on mute. The moderator will be placing you on mute. You'll see that we do have access to a chat box, so please feel free to use that chat box. We will be archiving this conversation, and the thoughts and ideas that are generated by yourselves will be looked at, will be deeply considered in terms of creating this idea for the next iteration of this project, of which this first webinar is one of many. If you are unable to speak or hear the presenter, let the moderator know in the chat box, And as well, please be mindful of ethical citational practice. And what we mean by this is when you experience an idea or a thought that inspires you to create further works or further ideas, or just to pass on that knowledge, please make sure that you properly cite the knowledge holder that shared that knowledge with you tonight. This webinar will also be recorded. It is being recorded as I speak, and will be made available to you as Jody explained. And also about the chat box, please use the chat box to ask questions, share comments. Probably due to the volume of folks that are in this meeting right now, and due to our time constraints, we might not be able to address questions through the comment, the chat box, but we will be paying attention to it as we go. And as mentioned, we will be archiving the comments and we'll be considering them in the next iteration of the project. So this series is called We Come from the Stars. The whole series is basically about revitalizing star knowledge. And we're going to be taking this moment in time to share collective knowledges, weaving together Indigenous knowledge, astronomy, science, mathematics. And we have all of these incredibly beautiful and thoughtful, dynamic thinkers from all across the world, the terrestrial world, to be able to contribute to this conversation today. So if I may, can I ask the conversationalist, so I'd like to ask Dea Hyundai to give a brief just shout out introduction, and then followed by the other witnesses that we've invited into this conversation. So those witnesses being those folks that appear on this poster. So we'll start with Dea Hyundai. Dea Hyundai, are you there? Okay, we'll come back to.
Forgot that little detail of the mic. So anyway, say wego, Dea Hyundai ni Waxanoda, Ganyak Gahaga ni Wagohonjoda, Waganyata, Dano Swego Jinuit Gida. So I'm known in my community as Dea Hyundai. I'm a Mohawk, and I'm a Turtle Clan. And Oswego, I guess that's how they say it in English, is where I'm living right now.
Thank you. Next is Isaac Murdoch. Okay, we're going to move to Dana and come back to Isaac.
Dana is having difficulties logging in. Apparently, she's caught in the traffic jam that apparently is happening. So we have some people working on that on the back end.
Thank you. Okay, so Hohapa.
Kia ora tātou. Tuatai mihi atu kia koe Jody o tira ki tō kāhui ako I whakarite ai tēnei huihuinga o tira tātou e pai nei. Good morning everyone. Nā mihi nui mai tēnei pito te ao. Te moana nui a kiwa ki te tonga I Aotearoa nei, ko hoe pahei taku ingoa. Kua roa nei au e mahi ana I te tā Jody. Oku hononga whakapapa no te tai rāwhiti o te ika Māui I Aotearoa. No te whakatohia whānau apanui Ngāti Parau te aitanga Hauiti me te aitanga Mahaki. So I descend from the tribes of whakatohia whānau apanui Ngāti Parau te aitanga Hauiti and te aitanga Mahaki. And I am currently a school teacher. Good to see everybody here and also seeing some familiar names from in Canada. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou te whānau. Kia ora whaia, Karen.
Kia ora. Kahu.
Kia ora mai rā no tātou katoa. Tautoko ana i ngā mihi o toku tuakana. E mihi whakanui kia koutou e ngā kai whakahaere me ki Jody. Kia koe hoki e te whaia, Karen. Mō au haerenga I roto I tēnei kōrero kei te wharaki hia a tātou katoa. He uri whakaeke au mai te tai tokerau me ki e papaki ana ngā tai o te taitama wāhine. Ko taumārere te waiora o Ngāti Manu, ko te kau rātai paintina hau. No reira, he uri no te hiku o te ika a Māui. He kaimahi hoki ki te whare wānanga o Tamaki Makaurau. He akonga hoki ki enei momo mātauranga me ki te tātai ororangi. No reira, kei te mihi ki a koutou e ngā puna mātauranga, e hui ai I tēnei wā, hei whakanui I te kaupapa nei. Kia ora, I'm Te Kau Rātai from the north of the North Island in Aotearoa, and I am a student of Tātaorarangi, our Māori Astronomy, and really just want to say thank you to Jody for putting all the stuff together and for you, Karen, leading so elegantly as you do, and looking forward to listening to our elders, our experts that we have in our Indigenous world around this knowledge. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Carlos, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sorry, Carlos is coming on a little bit late, so we'll just move to the next one.
Okay. Now we'd like to welcome Daniela.
Hi, everyone. I'm turning my camera on. I'll be with you in a moment, I think. Good evening. My name is Daniela Scalise, and I'm joining you from Maryland on the east coast of the United States, here on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay, lands of the Piscataway people. And I'm with the NASA astrobiology program. I've been working with Jody and all the friends here tonight for a couple of years, and I'm just overwhelmed to be in the company of all the other speakers and excited to learn with you all tonight. A special thanks again, Jody, Karen, Priya, Connie, and Tessa and others for putting this all together, creating and holding this space. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Daniela. We're also thrilled for you to be a part of this conversation. I'd like to call on Isaac Murdoch to introduce yourself. Isaac?
Ani bonjour. It's a great honor to be here, and I want to thank all of the organizers for pulling this together. Manzanap kinege go na be and cause meanwhile bam gijik. Kinebe shabiga jwat ndun jaba. Ginoje go dem. I'm from Serpent River First Nation, and I'm a student of the stars, and I'm just so thrilled to be here. And it's a great honor, and I'm really looking forward to listening to what everybody has to say. Miigwech, and thank you to everybody that's coming on now. Miigwech.
Miigwech. I was wondering if Wilfred Buck, are you available to introduce yourself at this particular moment in time?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, beautifully. We're so glad you're here.
All right, finally. I have to use my wife's account here. I couldn't get onto the Microsoft team. So just tell them you're CW. So I'm on here. I'm CW, I guess.
Hi, CW. Would you like to introduce yourself, Wilfred? We're so glad you're here.
Oh, okay. Sorry for being late. I just not used to all the technology, I guess. Danse, over bucket to stick us in. There we go. 1 minute to go. Again. Pascal, Nina Oche, Nitamarian, two of them. Greetings, my relatives. My name is Wilfred Buck. I'm from Pascal Cree Nation in northern Manitoba, and I'm honored to be allowed to sit here today with everybody, and hopefully I can go with the flow here with the technology. So it's awesome to see everybody, and I'm trying to get on, but it says too many people are trying to get on. So that's pretty awesome. So anyways, I've been studying the stars quite a long time, and I did a lot of research on my people's star knowledge. And initially, I started just with one group of stars, and of course, that was a very obvious one. From there, I just started. I talked to some of the elders about learning some knowledge about the stars, and one of the things one of my elders that I work with passed on now by the name of Don Cardinal. He said, "Well, if it was meant to be that you were to do this, then things will fall into place for you." And that's exactly what has happened. Things have fell into place, and all these star knowledge has arrived in front of my path as I walked along. So, like I said, I'm welcome to be here. And that's commitment, man. With that. Thank you, my relatives. Sorry, once again, sorry I'm late.
Is Daniela here? Daniela?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh yes, thank you. And I think we're all on board. Carlos? Not yet, eh? That's okay. Carlos will come. So we're going to start by, I'd like to give, maybe actually what I'll do is I'll describe the format of what's about to take place for everybody, so that you know. As mentioned, this is going to be the first of a series of conversations, and we decided that it would be a great opportunity, since these knowledge holders carry so much knowledge of stars, that we wanted to focus on a conversation which is prompted by a question for each webinar. So this particular conversation is going to take place between Deahunde and Wilfred, with the rest of our esteemed guests as witnesses and respondents to that original prompt that Wilfred and Deahunde are going to be activating. So that's what the format looks like, and so the first two conversationalists, I'd like to give you both another opportunity to welcome, to introduce, to begin to hold space in this digital world at this particular moment. In whatever way you would like. I know that we had previously talked about this provocation, "We come from the stars." So if that might inspire you to further introduce yourself at this moment in time, that would be great. So Deahunde, would you like to further introduce, or maybe with opening words or opening provocation for the group?
Certainly. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Itukadine nu and kadaswan a dietino waradum, and I gwego notas and what got one in a row in dam. Got to John Jade, ne only tit galhiade. Nangidi no dietino waradum sige. And already what gwego tini some what got one. Our connections, it's important to first we call it the words that come before all else, and with that it's how we connect the education and our stories are more than just stories. They're what I would term as the oral tradition of history. And the knowledge that we have talks about the sky world, where in the sky world is where everything began. And so we're aware that there's another place beyond the stars. And it's when we were given original instructions as people, because it's a little bit too much to get into right now, but the whole the story about how, it's not the story, it's the telling about how we arrived here on this, what we call Turtle Island now. And when we came here, we were given instructions on how to be. And that way of being, the understanding is that everything is alive. And when we look at science, science is also saying basically the same thing now, of course, hundreds of thousands of years later. And so we have that sort of connection now. It seems like our tellings now are more accepted from people because they can see the connections that we're talking about. So when we're talking about the stars and the immensity of it and the mystery of it, there's other things too that they can look for to say that this is all connected. We are connected. And sometimes I like to use a metaphor to connect, so that we understand that there are two things basically. And I used to say that it was matter and energy were these two things that we as human beings are made of. That's part of the telling as well, and how that came into being. And because we're from our energy part is from the stars, that means they're all our relatives. They have personality, just like everything that I'm be talking about is all from the perspective of language. And that's where the knowledge that I'll be sharing. So that connection between, to me, everything is like, okay, I would say it's like a brain. So in our brain, we know we have billions of cells. We don't, I guess there's, somebody's figured out how many, but I don't know. It's a lot anyway. Billions of cells. And if we think about those cells as being the matter, and we think about also all those brain matter cells, they are connected instantly when anything, all kinds of stimulus that comes in, any kind of stimulus that comes in, that happens instantly. Doesn't seem to be a time delay. That means it's like it's faster than light. And knowing also, the scientists tell us that these cells are not actually touching each other, that they're connected by what's called a synaptic gap. And that synaptic gap is the energy that we're talking about. So those are the two things that are the most amazing. And so that's like the universe. There's all these cells out there like stars, and we are, as individuals, being part of that. we connect with them faster than the speed of light. And that's done through our intuition, our creativity, and our thought. That thought is what's connecting us. And the stronger that thought is, the more people that we bring together, the stronger that message goes out to all of these entities. So it doesn't matter, distance has no relevance whatsoever. And same thing with all the things that are on Earth. The things that are, everything on Earth, every blade of grass is unique, just as human beings are unique. And so all of these entities that we talk about in the cosmos on Earth are all totally unique, just like people. Maybe some people look a little bit alike or a lot alike. Even twins have differences. So all of those things put together, it's almost daunting to say that we have time to talk about it all. That's why we have to be very careful about our sequencing so that people don't get confused. And so the beginning is like what we're talking right now. That sets the stage. Once we understand that concept, then we can go to the next step. And the next step goes into more of those instructions about how we're to be living here on Earth. And I think that's probably what I need to say right now. And I'm looking so much forward to hearing everybody else's input on that.
Thank you. You know, there was so much generosity right there. I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you so much. Also, in thinking about the matter, it's interesting for me to conceive of the matter as sort of, as you're speaking, like a relational sphere, rather than thinking about dark matter as not connected or not kinship or not the gravitational pull of kinships coming together. It's really interesting to hear about synapsis too, and the synapsis that is all around us and that is often in between kin, that exists in our relational sphere with each other and more than human relatives, and that the stars have personality as well. These are just brilliant. It's very exciting. Thank you for those opening words. I'd also like to invite Wilfred Buck. Wilfred Buck, would you like to share some opening words?
Wilfred, you might have to select the mute icon there to unmute yourself.
Okay, am I on now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
All right. So, I just want to say that I'm honored to be allowed to sit here today with everybody. I'm honored to hear what my brother had to say in regard to opening remarks and how these meetings should go forward. And yeah, I like what I heard. And one of the things that we talk about in regard to who we are, is Achagosa, the stars. And we're told that we are energy. We're energy, just like my brother was mentioning. We're energy, and we are a product of a thought by Kitsamanto, our creator. The creator had a thought. That thought came into being. The first thought that came into being was light, was energy. And we are that essence. We have something inside of us called Achak. White people call Achak, which is spirit. And the older name translation of that is Kishiku. Kishiku means beings of light or beings of energy. And that's what resides in us, that energy. And I always like referring it back to the particle theory, where the matter it can either be destroyed or created. It just changes form. And that's exactly what we do. We change form. Our energy, that essence of who we are, changes form. One of the things, and this story that was given to me was is a story prior to first contact. It was a story prior to Christianity, and it says that we come from the stars. We are star people, and in essence, our spirit is a product of that thought that Creator had, and that essence of our realities. But not only our reality, the multiple realities that are out there. And so we can transverse realities with the essence that we are as spirit. And everything is spirit. And everything has that common denominator of being spirit. And everything has that energy. And that energy flows for us. When we come to visit this place, the Wataashki, this earth here, we take a physical form. And when we take a physical form, we take on a lot of the positives and negatives of being a physical form, being of matter. One of those is illness. One of those is disease. And we're told that if that energy doesn't flow within us, then disease will come. And that's exactly the concept of Modutsa and the sweat lodge. Modutsa and the sweat lodge is energy. It's particle theory in action. The sun brings that energy to the trees. The trees bring that energy to the wood. That wood brings that energy to the fire. That fire brings that energy to the rocks. That rocks bring that energy to the water. The water brings that energy to us. And we bring that energy inside our body through the circulatory system and the respiratory system. And then we breathe that energy out as CO2. And again, that's particle theory in action. And our people understood this. We understood that that flow of energy has to be there in order for us to continue on. And just from listening to what's been happening in the last little while, so it reminds me of a story that one of our elders told us by the name of Art Solomon. He talked about who we are and where we belong and who we think we are and how great we think we are. Our elders always tell us when you start something, one of the things you got to remind yourself is, Nittamagian. I am pitiful. I know nothing. And from when you put yourself in that position, then you can open your mind, you can open your spirit to other possibilities that are out there. So our elder told us a story. He said, so one morning we wake up and something has happened to the trees. What would happen to us? And of course, the answer is that we die because we need those trees. We need those relatives. Then you go on, okay, so tomorrow we wake up and something has happened to Manchuosak. Manchuosaks are the insects. What would happen to us? And again, the response is we would die because we need those things. But we like to think we don't. We're better than those things. We need them. And so they go on to say there's more examples that are used, but in the end, the last one is, so we wake up, so the earth wakes up in the morning and something has happened to the humans. What would happen? And of course, the answer is nothing. That's how needed we are. That's how pitiful we are. We don't need, the creation doesn't need us, but we need creation. We need every part of creation. And we have to understand that. And this disease that's happening right now gives us a reminder. Because if you look outside, like I'm sure all of us have seen all those birds that are out there, all that blue water, all that clear sky. This is a reminder that we're not as great as we think we are. We have to go back to understand Atsak. We have to go back to understand spirit. And we have to connect with that. And those stars out there, they always remind us of that, where we come from, what our connection is, and who we are. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you. I feel like even just saying that word, attack, it does something. There's something that happens when you embody that word. It feels like it's offering itself when you speak it. and doing something. It's activating something. And as a Cree person who didn't grow up with language, with Cree language, there's something really special about being able to say that. So thank you. Thank you. I'd also like to take this moment to just hold space for the incredible knowledge that is circulating right now. So, so, you know, we will take some pauses just to be in gratitude for all of the sharing that's happening today. So thank you both so much. We have another witness respondent who has joined us that will be responding after. So Dana, would you like to introduce yourself? Dana, are you there? Okay, so we will return to Dana, but I just like.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. That's my fault. I had it on mute.
Oh, that's okay, Dana. Nice to see you. I wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Dana Desiderio, A Dashajine. That's what they called me. That's my name. Nanash Ajanse, my desk gives me Bashashin, Ashin Dashache, Twitch in it A quit ao, a son in Shlin. So I have 4 clans, and based on those 4 clans, I am a woman, not a man. I am a woman. Our life ways, they are very specific. They are, how do you say it? It's put into a duality. We have a good way and an evil way, but the way that you should live is right down the path of Hajj. Hajj is that delicate balance. Delicate balance between good and bad. Every single person has this within themselves. They have this same duality within themselves. We express this in a holy way as being Sa'atnagay Bikhajon. So Sa'atnagay Bikhajon is one of the greatest forces in the universe, but it's an expression of one of the greatest dualities, the greatest balance that there could be. But this Sa'atnagay Bikhajon, it resides in every single human being. So when we talk about Native people, when we name ourselves, I name myself, a son because I'm a female. My brother, he would name himself Dene. When we name ourselves, we are talking about this wonderful Hojo, both sides. I have part of myself that is female. The other side is male. This great balance, Hojo, and this great being that is, my being is Sa'anriye Bik'ahajan. From the very beginning, the very beginning of time, from the Big Bang, maybe even before that, we have holy people who had a great vision, who had great thoughts, who had such a great love to imagine what life could be. The goal, the end point, was to have 5-fingered human beings. So all the evolution that occurred from the Big Bang to the development of our solar system, to the development of our Earth, to development of life on Earth, all of that was meant so that human being could have a really good place to live. And that's what Hajine Hanet tells us. Hajine Hanet is the the whole body of oral history, you know, the entire oral history, we call it Hajine Hane. For Navajos, that's Hajine Hane. Hajine, the word itself, it means Hajine, like it means to come up and out. It means to come through. So we have underworlds, and a lot of things happen with the underworlds, but the point of that is that we came up and out. So from the very beginning, there was a thought, there was a vision that there would be human beings. So all of the events that occurred from there are meant to develop a wonderful environment for Navajo, Dine, or in my case, a son, to have a good place to live, to have food to eat, to have water to drink, to have, you know, animals, to have keya, you know, to have land. All of this was developed specifically in mind for human being to exist.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you so much for that richness and sharing. We learned so much. This gesture of coming up and out is expansive. We really appreciate that. Thank you. So Dana, we'll also be coming back to you shortly. Thank you. So I would like to now share with everybody what the prompts are, or what kind of provocation we are offering tonight for for Wilfred and Deahande to respond to. So I'm just going to go ahead and read that out for you. So coming from sort of like a dance studies choreography kind of positioning within this conversation, who is also doing research on Indigenous and Afrofuturism, I was wondering about the feeling of space, or the feeling of a star. So some would say that it's kind of difficult to get a feeling for a star, in the same way as creating a feel for a tree, or to be able to intuitively feel what that tree might be feeling, and what kind of relationship it might tree. We can also perhaps tap that tree for sap. We have been organizing trees in the form of architecture for a very long time. But I'm wondering, can you comment on what kinds of relationships stars might be asking of us? And also, how do we be good relatives to stars? So if I may, I'd like to start with Deahande, if that makes sense for you, to begin to respond to that question.
Certainly. I just wanted to acknowledge that the stars, and naturally all things that we know of are very different than human beings. So it's hard to think about a particular feeling that they might have, because unless we're even in, like you mentioned, a tree, unless we're actually inside the tree, looking out is an abstract. So when we're talking about feelings, we have this relationship, and this relationship is about respect, it's about love, and it's about communication. And this goes for everything. If we're talking, and I'll talk about the things that we're familiar with, like trees, for instance. or let's say even medicine plants. And, you know, when we go out to a medicine plant and we put our tobacco down, and that is part of the whole ceremony of that relationship. So that relationship has to do with how we are feeling, and we're there to seek their help. We're there to seek help for either self, or in most cases, it's for somebody else. So we go to where the medicine plants grow, and we talk about the grandfather and grandmother plants, or the main ones, and they're the ones that we address first. And we put our tobacco down and we tell them that we're here to take one of your relatives. And we so much appreciate the help that you have, the energy that you have, and the healing powers that you have. And this is our relationship. And so that's why we leave the tobacco. And so then the medicine plants, the lead plants, they're the ones now communicate with their relatives, and they say to their relatives, one of you is going with this person who has come to us for help, and you are to take all the energy that you have and go with them to do the best that you can. And that's the energy that's exchanged. And so it's no different than any of the other entities, like the stars that we're talking about. The stars, and I have put up a couple of words up here on the board, and I don't know if anybody's seeing it, but there's two words, and this has to do with the original instructions. As when we came here to this earth, we were given instructions on how things were to be. And so creation, after it looked over creation and everything was complete, then it was time for mankind to be introduced. So man was made from the earth, which is the matter, and he's also made of the energy of this intelligent energy that we call creator, or we say great spirit, and there's many, many, many words that we use to describe this. And even in our own language, we have many, many words to describe this energy, this great intelligent energy. And so the stars are part of that, just like we are part of the stars and the stars are part of us. So up here, I wrote down the word Ojisto, and for those who don't have their camera on, I'll spell it out. It's O-T-S-I-H-S-T-O. Ojisto is the star. And just a little bit about language. Our language is a polysynthetic language, so many parts of the words have different meanings. So the O in that word is a pronoun, which means it exists in its natural state. The T-S-I-H-S-T part, or the root part, is the star. And the O on the end is how it exists. So it's existing as a star. Now, I spoke earlier when I was talking about the original instructions. When we came to Earth and we became part of the energy that's from the Earth, that's the matter, and we were blended with the energy beings that came here. And so that's the energy. It was a very different kind of being. So when those two things were put together when the earth was completed, and all the creator went out and inspected everything to make sure that all the flowers were perfect and all the fishes were perfect, and just goes on and on and on, all the things that were perfect. So now everything is prepared for these two pieces of energy and matter to be put together. And then he gave everything instructions. So the fishes were given instructions of what their duties were to be, and it goes on and on. The medicine plants were given instructions as to what their duties were going to be. The trees, and it just goes on and on. We could be here all night talking about all the different things that were given instructions, including the human being. And he said, I give you these gifts. And one of the things that I give you, he says, I'm going to give you, in English, we call it the flame of life. And that word is Gajista. And it's spelled K-A-T-S-I-H-S-T-A. So I want you to take your note for Ojista, the star, and Gajista for the flame of life. And I want you to look at the word, the K-A for Gajista, the flame of life. The Ka means that has been taken from something that was natural and modified. And it also has a lot of strength because it's a female pronoun. The gist part of it is exactly the same as the Ojisto for the star. And the A on the end of Gajista, the flame of life, means that's how it exists in us. And it comes back to us when we look at our funeral speeches. And when we say that the flame of life has gone, has left, the body goes cold. And so that we know that it's a flame, just like the star, just like the sun. It's the molten, in scientific terms, molten flame that some are so far away that it's just the light that's still coming to us from outer space. And so when Wilfred was talking there and he talked about that light, you see that light is alive. It's still out there. It's still coming to us. And so we've received that light, and we've received that light within us. And so we become the light to be able to share. And so the word is that's our relationship. That's our connection, because that flame of life goes back to the cosmos, goes back to its origin, goes back to its home after it leaves the body, and the body goes back to the earth. So the matter becomes matter again in a different form, and the energy is the eternal part. And so it's not a sad thing. It is a sad thing when we lose somebody, but we realize that we have to communicate with that energy, because it's just like being born again. It's like being born, like when we were an infant coming in here, we were kind of like helpless, so we needed help. And that's why we take so much, we go to through our ceremonies, we take so much care with someone who has passed, because they need that help from us to say, it's okay, we're going to be okay here. We're going to be here a little bit longer than you are, and you're now free. Your energy, you as an entity, you're leaving, And so that energy lingers here for a while until it's satisfied, or that individual is satisfied that we're going to be okay here. And
May I add to
feeling? Sure, please.
Oh, thank you, Te Hyundai. Te Hyundai, I really respect you as my elder. I really respect everything that you have to say, but I would like to add that for Navajo Way, you know, you've came to explore some of our lands. You've got to come into our Hogan, but we never really got to exchange our really deep philosophical and spiritual ways. So I want to share something with you and with the group. This is star knowledge. So we all know the constellation that is called Pleiades. Pleiades. Some people say it that way, and it's significant to all of us. It's significant in our different, you know, our own traditional ways. So for us, Pleiades, for Navajo, it's called Dilyehe. Dilyehe has very strong ceremonial power. It is a marker for planting, and we Navajo are agriculturalists. So when we watch the movements of the Liehe, of Pleiades, we know when or when not to do planting. But Pleiades doesn't just mean that. We all see 7 stars in the sky. So when you go to Navajo coming of age ceremony, a woman's ceremony, Kinalta. I know you guys are from different, you know, nations, but you might have heard of Kinalta before. This is where we initiate and we mold our young ladies. There is a process, 4-day process, where we mold our women to be strong, to be thoughtful, to be strong thinkers, to be strong leaders. We mold them with the teachings of the clan. So when on the last day of the ceremony, we cook a cake. And the way that we cook this cake is all of us have to get together in the hogan, and we have to batter. We have to make a big old batter of corn cake. It's corn cake. We put some raisins in it, put a little wheat germ to make it sweet. But the sticks, the stirring sticks that we use, you know, to batter, they're just tools. You know, they're not just stirring sticks. These same sticks connect these 7. There's 7. There's always an odd number inside those stirring sticks. So a proper set of stirring sticks has 7 staffs within it. These 7 sticks connect to Pleiades, to the sky. And so with the stirring of these cornmeal, we are invoking the power, the energy of the Pleiades. We're putting that into the cake, and that energy is for longevity. It is for livelihood. It is protection against poverty, against hunger. We are strengthening our clan. Navajos, we do things matrilineally. So only the clan mothers like myself, all of my mom's daughters, all of my mom's sisters' daughters, we are the ones who are in the hogan making this cake along with our daughter that we're raising. So all of us, we are using our tool, our steering sticks that are connected to the sky to stir this corn cake. We actively invoke that power from the star right here for longevity for our clan. It is goodness for our people, only goodness. And we are actively fighting against poverty, against hunger, against old age, against any other. Naye are the monsters, you know, the monsters like poverty, like sickness, like illness. So when we make this cake, we are actively fighting against all of these monsters out there. So this star connection is not just something that we observe, it's something that we put into our own ceremony and that we put into our young girls. And that's how our girls are molded. And that's how I have been molded also, you know. My auntie, she was very strict on me. She was very firm on me. And that's how I know. That's why I know, because she put that on me.
Wow, thank you, Dana. Thank you very much. I would like to now move to ask Wilfred. Wilfred, I know that you also have some really strong teachings, strong knowledges to share around the Pleiades. And I was wondering if you'd like to pick up there. I just sounded really British. It's like I just got this British accent.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so yes, I'd like to once again acknowledge my my relatives, Taihonde. I like to hear so many different perspectives, and it's a great honor to be listening to my relatives as they share their knowledge, the knowledge of their people, and just from hearing these stories and hearing these sacred perspectives, I have so many things going through my head. Just things are just tumbling. Every time somebody says a word, something comes, and I try to train myself to listen rather than try to respond to what's going on. It's pretty hard with this world. But anyway, I just want to talk about first of all who we are as human beings, and my people call themselves Inenyo. Inenyo is the word, and that word translated, it tells people who understand the language. Inenyo, the root word for Inenyo is neo. Neo means four, and four again is one of the sacred numbers. Four. So the Inenyo is loosely translated like beings of four, or of four parts. And of course, we were made from, we're told when we come to this place, we were made from water, from fire, from air, from earth. And that was mixed, and this is how we came to be in physical form at this place, at this time. And through that, we also understood that we came from the Pleiades. The Pleiades, for my people, we call it Pagwangizik. Pagwangizik means the hole in the sky. And the hole in the sky refers to, it could refer to a couple things. One of them is at certain times of the year, as the Pleiades crosses our sky, that it gets to a point where it acts as an optical illusion. When you look at it directly, it'll blink out, and then you look off to the side, and it'll reappear on the edge of your peripheral vision. Then you look back again, and it'll blink out. So this happens. It won't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes. And the other thing about the Pleiades, the hole in the sky, again, they're referring to the hole in the sky for that one reason, but there's another reason. And this has to do more along the lines of particle theory. It all has to do along the lines of quantum theory. That is a hole in the sky. What they're referring to is a spatial anomaly, a wormhole. They're talking about an alternate reality. That's what they're talking about. There's multiple realities out there, and we are just one of many. And they go on to say that that hole in the sky is guarded by a sacred being, and that sacred being is the one that allows us through. We have the right credentials, so to speak, then we're allowed through to come and visit at this place, Utashi, this earth. And that sacred being my people call Kuku Managasi's grandmother spider, and she sits on the Milky Way, and she guards that doorway. And our elders tell us that we get examples of quantum theory, of alternate realities when we sleep and we dream. Oamiak are glimpses of possibilities, infinite possibilities. Sometimes they come true, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they appear later on. But these just gives us glimpses of things that are possible. And with the human mind, anything is possible. So to continue on, so that hole in the sky, Pagwangizik, that was where we came from. We come from that place, and we go back to that place. And the first one here to this place, Utashki, this earth here, was Atagosisquil, Star Woman. She was the first one here. She was the first one that was allowed through that doorway, and she came here. And when she came here, she had to meet three specifications to come to that hole in the sky. One, when she came to that hole in the sky, she was told that she would have to take a physical form, and so she agreed to that. The other one was when she came to that hole in the sky, she had to bring a gift with her. And the other one was when she came to that hole in the sky, she couldn't stay long. So Atagosisquil, Star Woman, she agreed to those conditions, and Ugumanagasis lowered her down to that hole in the sky. And so when she took a physical form, when she touched the earth, and the gift that she bought was the star blanket, the original star blanket, and that original star blanket had 7 points. And again, that sacred number 7, Tepago, my people call that. And as for staying long, how long is long for a being of energy? So she stayed a lifetime. So that single strand of webbing that Ugumanagasi's grandmother spider lowered Star Woman down to earth, we all come through that, and that's called the umbilical cord. That's how we all get here. And then we go back up, we go back home, because we're just visiting at this place. This place is not ours, and we should be mindful of that this place is not ours, and that we are a visitor here, and we should leave it as it is when we came. So those are some of the other thing that I'd like to mention, and this is again in regard to our young relative there from the Dene people, was that the word that my people have for life, Pema Tishuin. When you look at that word and you ask people what that means, they'll tell you it means life. But the meaning of that word is very, very specific. Pema, with Pema, the first part of it, Pema Teo, Pemuteo, it means going forward, walking forward. Matishu, that the root word of Pema Tishuin, Matishu. Matishu means the umbilical cord. And the last word, Awin, Pema Tishewin. Awin means moving forward with confidence or in a good way. So that word, Pema Tishuin, tells us that we should be mindful of all our female relatives that have come before us. That's how we come here. So every ceremony that we done, every ceremony that is done by my people is done to honor Ishquil, honor the woman, honor all the women that have come before us. Because without our women, we would not be here. And we always have to be mindful of that. And we as men, we like to think, oh, we're the greatest, and we know everything. But I am pitiful. I don't know too much. So I just wanted to share that with my brother and sister there. So thank you very much, Hexa.
Thank you. I'd like to now, I'd like to open it up to our witness respondents. Can we start with Isaac Murdoch, please? Isaac.
You just have to unmute yourself there, Isaac. Just give him a minute.
Great. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Isaac, and I was just wondering if you could share some thoughts as you've been witnessing these conversations that have been so beautifully spoken, these ideas and these knowledges. So if there's anything that's inspiring you or anything that you'd like to share at this moment as a witness, please do so.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I just want to thank the previous speakers. I'd rather just listen than talk, but unfortunately, I've been asked to talk, so I will. You know, years ago, my grandfather, he took me up to this place called Quikwigzwang. And when you go to Quikwigzwang, the stars, they seem to be lower than normal. And what he said was, I'm going to take you to a very special sacred site. That's what he told me. And I was thinking it was a rock or it was a, you know, something special. But then he looked up at the sky and he said, look, Anungo Khan Weaning, he said, there's a sacred blanket, Gojing, hanging above us. He said, and in that blanket, there's lots of Mazinabiganan. He says, there's lots of pictures up there. He says, those are our relatives. That's our family. He said, over there, he said, that's where we come from, Ishpeming. He says, we come from those stars back there. He says, you know, before we came to this earth, he said, we came through Murdoch Kazanan. We came through a series of powers to get here. 4 of them to be exact. Each time we got to that power, we learned something. We get to the next power, we learn something else. Next power is something else. Just like when Wilfred was talking about those powers. We learn before we come here. And of course, we come from the stars. And then we enter our mom's lodge inside of her belly. And then we learn more from that. And then finally, we go through that sacred hoop. You know, almost like through Bugno Gijik, the great hole in the sky. We come through that sacred hoop and we enter this lodge here on earth. This very sacred lodge. And we're only guests here. We're just visitors here. And that, you know, through those 4 stages before we got here, we got our original instructions on how to live here on earth. And they call that Chinak Nagewanin, the sacred laws, the big laws that are here. And of course, those laws, they've been recorded for up on top of us too. Everything that is down here on how to live is also up there. You know, that's what they always said. Abdek ubiskabiing and isnabe nikia. You know, we're all going to go back to those Chinak Nagewanin, and we're going to go back to those laws. And what they said was that while we're here as visitors, we have to feast our teachers, our relatives in the sky. And so a lot of times you noticed our lodges, our wigwams, our spiritual lodges, they're actually, the poles are connected to the stars. And they're done like that on purpose. So that the way we live our life is in accordance to the sacred laws that are here on earth. And so I know that, you know, the old wigwams, they were perfect. Those old lodges were perfect because they were celestial aligned to, you know, Gijikdong, the great sky. And we lived our lives according to those laws because those were the original instructions. And so I love it when people talk about these original instructions and stars, because for me, that's where we learn a lot of these things. They always said the animals were to be the leaders of our government, that the animals are the ones that are stargazers, that they understand those stars, and that as human beings, we're only visitors here in their land. You know, as a child, they always said, you know, there's a great underworld here. There's a lot of power in the ground. And that power should never be disturbed. It should never be bothered. That's why during the treaties, they said, never dig deeper than a hand width, because they don't want to disturb that great power that's underneath there. You know, there's a map of where these tunnels go. You know, when I was a young child, they used to say, there's an old serpent that lives at Genebek Goming. It's a white serpent. It even has a white beard. And this white serpent, it has a tunnel that goes to Kopkik Mixing. And then that tunnel continues to go to Mindiguasin. And then that tunnel, it continues to go to a place called Mindiguasin. Then to Ginebeg Ukshabigajwat. Then it goes to Ginebek Niashing. Then to Skodiang. Then it goes to Ginebeg Ukjibiajwat. And then it keeps going to Bodashkaying. It keeps going to Sini Swasining and Ajdap Kissining. Our old people had this map of the underworld. But guess where they got that map from? They got that map from up there. That's how they learned about this map in the underworld. And they said, you know, never bother those powers in the underneath. Because if the people try to take that power up, it'll destroy everything. We have to remember the original instructions that we have. And that's why that great Anungo Khan Weaning is so important to our people. That great star blanket. Because it encompasses all of the knowledge that we need to live here on Earth. You know, right now, the two-legged are on a quest to destroy the Earth. We're suffering an environmental collapse. And, you know, we're in abrupt climate change. And because of the globalization of Western education, because of colonization, these indigenous knowledges have been wiped out in a lot of areas. But our greatest teacher is right there. It's right above us. So when we learn about these stories, about Bugano Gijik, the hole in the sky, when we learn about, you know, a lot of people talk about Star Woman. You know, when she was the first one that came down here. You know, I'll tell you a quick little story. They say she was living on the moon with her sister a long time ago. And one of her sisters found this. This is called a magoose. It's a bone. It's from a moose leg. And she put it in her hair. And of course, the other sister got jealous and threw her sister off the moon. And she came spiraling down to Earth and she landed in the water. When she hit that water, her medicine bag opened up and all of her star medicine, it scattered to the bottom of the lake. Well, of course, years later, she ended up marrying an old bear. She had a daughter, Wainona, who of course had 4 children. One of them was Nanabujo, Jabayabus. A whole bunch of children they had. But that medicine is still in the water. So the elders always say there's something called manadusak. They're like little worms. And what they do is they spend their lives collecting that medicine. And they store that medicine on their back. And this is the medicine I'm talking about. The shells. These shells are connected directly to that star medicine that hangs above us. And so our people, they would make beads like this wampum. And they would write pictures in the wampum so that we can understand the original instructions again. The power of the stars is everywhere. It's in everything. They say that the fish are stargazers and they look through Bugano Gijik and they can see the future, what's there. Anwe Wichigewen, they can see what's going to happen next. And so when we eat our fish, that knowledge is stored in their fat. When we eat that fish, that knowledge goes into our bodies. And we inherit that knowledge from those fish. Did you know that our brains are 60% fat? Mine is probably 85% fat. But they say the brain is 60% fat. And it actually lives and it functions only on the different proteins and the different things that are in that fat. So when we eat our traditional foods, we gain that inherent knowledge. And for us, the fish will gain star knowledge. Even the trees, when the trees look up, when we eat those barks, when we drink our medicines, we're all gaining knowledge. It's inside of us. It becomes a part of who we are. And so I always think that, you know, those sacred sites that hang in the sky, when we invite them to be a part of our families, when we invite them to be into our homes, to live with us, you know, then it gives us a chance to feel connected to everything, to be whole. But just like every family member, we have to feed them. We have to give them offerings. We have to give them all the time. So if we give these things to these amazing relatives, you know, they'll always be there strong for us. We don't let our relatives starve. You know, they said that one day we will go back to the old ways, because that's the original instructions. You know, I think about the story that we're in now, the story of when the two-legged are trying to destroy everything. And here we are in this sacred Atsukan, in this sacred story. What are we to do? For me, the answer is easy. We look up. We look up into the stars. And we celebrate, you know, the great medicine that we received, that we have here. So I encourage everybody, sing your songs, wear your shells, paint your face, be proud of who you are. Celebrate the diversity that we all have together, because we all come from this amazing, powerful magic. And you know what? I believe that it's through our moms and our grandmas and our aunties and our sisters that we find the true essence of what that medicine is. Because we all come from our mom. And so, you know, I always think that, you know, mothers, especially pregnant mothers, they carry a special, very sacred knowledge. When my baby was born, I'll tell you something before I go. When my baby was born, I couldn't believe it. It was a miracle. It was an absolute miracle. The whole birth, seeing everything. You know, she went through those four powers. Manadu Kazanan, they call it. She went through those four powers. She entered her mom's belly. And then she came out of that thing. I seen her head like this. I couldn't believe it. And so I grabbed her. And, you know, her breath, her first breath, she screamed and she casted her breath out into the world. And her breath went into my mouth. And her breath went all the way down into my heart. That's the power of the stars. Creation comes from there. Creation, that's where it all comes from. And so, you know, the children, they carry that knowledge. The young children are always reminding us about that sacred knowledge, about Gijikdang, about the sky. They're always telling us, look at those clouds, look at those stars, look at this stick, look at that rock. Because they're so close to those original instructions. They're so close to their mom. And then when they get older, they start crouching down. And they, you know, our elders keep showing us these sticks, these stones. They keep showing us the stars. Our greatest teachers are the little ones and the old people. And so I just want to just share that much. I get so excited. I wish I could actually tell some star legend stories, but we don't have the time. But I really appreciate everything. I'm super excited about all of this, you know, and so Chimigwich Wagom, I thank all of you for being here, and I'll be on standby if you need me. Nahao Miigwech.
Thank you, Isaac. I'd like to now, sorry?
Oh, I have a question for Isaac.
Can we hold off on that question? Can we ask that question after? Is that okay, Dana? Just because I want to make sure that our relatives from New Zealand have an opportunity to speak as well as Daniela.
Oh,
thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. So I'd now like to ask Hohapa to respond to Wilfred Buck's articulations and knowledges, or De Honde knowledges as well.
Tēnā koe whae, Karen. O tira tātou e pai nei. Ka tika ka tuku mihi atu ki o tātou kaumātua nāna nārau anō I whakarite ai I ngā kōrero o tēnei huihuinga o tātou. So thank you to the previous speakers and particularly our elders that have spoken and articulated themselves really well. It's actually an honour and a privilege for both myself and Te Kahurātai to be a part of these conversations today. Through the conversations that I've heard, one of the key areas that I'd probably want to touch on is whakapapa, genealogy. And they're moving through in regards to the connections that we have today with the stars. I'm not going to go into much detail because Kahurātai is definitely able to touch on those areas, and I want to make sure that I do leave things for him to talk about. So within our traditions and our stories and our teachings, we descend from Io, and Io is creator in our view. Through those links, from Io, we have the various stages of nothing, the dark, and then we have Sky Father, Earth Mother, and their children. They had many children, and then it comes down through us and our traditions. And my tribal traditions, we say that we descend through that line from Tāne Mahuta, but through that genealogy, it actually takes us right back to Io, to Creator, and through those stages, we also connect with the stars. Part of the thing, I do find it hard from time to time to articulate myself in English. One of the biggest things for us as Māori is being able to connect and to embrace that Māori, that life essence that resides within us and our being, and how we connect with our environment, whether it be here on Earth or the skies above. Through these conversations and these meetings that we have been having over the last couple of years, we talk about ourselves as people descending from the stars. Our genetic makeup comprises of DNA that comes from the stars, and that's a proven fact. Through our teachings that we have today and that's been handed down to us, we talk about the importance of stars and what they mean to us. So one is that we identify as a people that we descend from the stars. When our time is done here on Earth, we ascend back up into the heavens to the stars. Even now, a lot of our children, when they make connections, when they lose loved ones, they connect to various stars that may be evident within the night sky or the afternoon skies and so forth. And they identify with those stars, and then what they do is ka tīpako hia tētahi whetū, e tohu ana I tō rātou taonga kua tuku atu kua hoki atu ki te ika I te rain. So what they do is that they'll identify a star at that time that their family member had passed, and they will identify that star as being their loved one that watches over them while they remain here on Earth. So those stories still remain with us. The connections that we also have between our atua, our gods up in the heavens and in the stars to us here on Earth is very evident within our traditional chants that we have, and again, which resides within our genealogy and our tribal genealogies, and those vary from tribe to tribe as well. We as a Māori nation, we are a seafaring people, so our ancestors were really reliant on navigating by the stars. As some of you may be aware that our ancestors traversed throughout the Pacific Ocean and then finally coming here to Aotearoa, which is the most southern part of Polynesia, Meki, as they say, the most southern part of the Pacific, where we reside now. For us as a people to be able to remain grounded, we need to have a sound understanding of our land, which we walk on, and then the heavens above, the skies above. And when we, in our formal ceremonies that we have, we always refer to ki te rangi e tui honei, ki te papa e takoto nei, from the sky that is above and the land that is beneath us. We embrace both, and by embracing both, it keeps us well grounded as a people. It also allows us the opportunity to walk with pride and a sense of belonging of who we are as a people. As far as those teachings today, it is definitely evident within our education system. We make those connections, and just like Dana explained in regards to the connections with Pleiades, and our term is Matariki, and there's many stories in regards to Matariki and what it represents to us as a people. For us, it represents the beginning of the new year. So our new year begins in the middle of the year, not as the 1st of January, as a lot of people celebrate it now. And there are also customs that are done there and that we carry out every year as well. But that's probably, about, I don't want to go on for too long because I know we've got Kahuratai that also needs to speak, and I don't want to cover too many areas because it won't really necessarily leave him much to talk to. But ngā mihi nui ki a koe whae Karen o tira tātou e pai nei, ngā mihi nui.
Kia ora. Thank you, Pohapa. I'd like now to turn to Kahurata to respond to some thoughts and ideas that have been shared tonight.
Yeah. Okay. Kia ora mai rano tātou katoa. E tautoko ana i ngā kōrero Pāraki hea ki roto mana, me kōrero hoki e pāna ki ngā whakaro o tātai te iwi Māori ki Aotearoa. Tōkana. Yeah, awesome, awesome thoughts and stories being shared already. And even though it's on the other side of the world, there's such a deep connection between the space of the stars and how the stars connect us to, like how Isaac was talking about fish and bees. So I think that's where I want to start off. Just kind of make 2 points. The first one is when I started learning this knowledge about Māori astronomy, the first thing I was told by a kaumātua was to titiro te kaore tae te kite he wehenga, which is look out to the horizon and you can't see a separation between the land and the sky. So as Indigenous as Māori people, we've always had an intimate connection, but in a way that kind of like deeply personal, spiritual belonging and places and spaces. But based on just looking to the horizon, there's no separation between that connection to the land and connection to the sky. So we have that same connection to our sky. You know, when I went over to Canada last year, it wasn't my sky, and it's such a weird place to travel and actually look up at the stars and be completely, know that you're not on the land that you're used to standing on because you're not looking at the sky that you're used to seeing. Mato Hohepa was saying around whakapapa, like for us in the... So it's slightly different to where Hohepa comes from, but we can trace our whakapapa, our genealogy, through from the sky and the land to this, the appearance of the stars and the sun and the moon, and then through specific stars that we see not only as, stars in the sky, but as our ancestors. And in our whakapapa, the family of light, Te Whānau Marama, they're actually like they're the children of the firstborn. So in that sense, they're so in that sense, they're the first ones to lead us. You know, just like the elder siblings gives you all the direction and is the bossy one and tells you what to do, the oldest ones who lead us the most, they're the ones who speak to us the loudest. So they lead the rest of existence. So there's a connection between what's going on in the sky, what stars are rising, and what's going on in the land, and what's going on in the waters as well. Which is there's this deep connection between all things. Like it's a Western perspective to break things apart to understand them. For Māori, it's understanding things through the relationships they have to other things. So we do the same when we connect to the stars. It's not looking at the stars like astronomy through a telescope and just looking up, because your feet are always on the ground when you're looking up. You're all connected to the land, you're always out there looking at the sky. So all those things are connected, and we, in our perspective, like people were after everything until Turo, everything in the world of light that we live in now, that was made first, and then people came last. So some people think that that means that we're special and significant, that we're the youngest siblings, we know the least, and it's for us to listen to our elder siblings to teach us, to guide us, to lead us in the day. And the elder siblings is the stars. So that leads me into like the original question that we were talking about this around how to be in good relation with the stars, like how we can be in good relation with trees. Ato Hohepa touched on that, is in the Māori we can, because we share whakapapa, we share genealogy. So there's a relationship between us, there's a connection between us. Like Wilfred said, we come from the, so even if we don't know the connection is there, it is always there and always there for us to explore. Just by like how Wilfred said, you know, starting off with one constellation, going to your elders and asking questions, and 40 years later, you could be, you know, leading us just like Wilfred is in this conversation. But in about this thing that we call rongo. So like there's really only two senses when you're talking to Māori. There's sight, there's your kitenga, and then everything else you. So like kind of Pākehā worldview to just look at things, and that's how you learn. For us, up at the stars, it will twinkle differently. It will be brighter. It will be smaller. It'll be closer together, it'll be further apart. Every time you look at the stars, they'll look slightly different. And then when you're looking, you're not just, you know, you're not just using kite anymore. You know, what are the smells you can smell when that star's in the sky? What is the wind doing, and what feeling does the wind bring? When the wind blows, you can taste it, and that's the taste that that star brings into the atmosphere. You know? Like spiritual connection, you can feel something when different stars are seen, when different constellations you know, just like when you see a relative that you know really well, it's like the connection of seeing a familiar relation and giving our genealogy color and life comes from our whakapapa kōrero. Our stories we know about the stars, the songs we sing about the songs we sing, when we have our dead and we send them with the stars, when we have our births and they are brought in with the stars, all of those connections are a part of it. And then so then that's just, you know, going out looking, but not just looking, feeling it. And then so then the last thing is when we do one of our leading kaumata, Rereata Makiha, he says, tua ki te rangi, tua ki te whenua, tua ki te moana, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao. Which is weaving together the sky, weaving together the land and the waters. And that is how we come to rongo, how we come to feel the day and come to feel the night. So, yeah, so the connection isn't just about looking up, but we look at is the stars in Te Autapo, so the stars rising in the morning, and whatever's going on in the land and whatever's going on in the water, that's a part of the connection to that star. So Mahuru rising, what is one called? Oh yeah, so Alphard rising in the morning, rising in the morning in September, and then we have the migration of certain birds coming. Those birds coming and hearing songs in the forest is part of it, you know, all these stars rising and then the ripening of fruit, the flowering of trees, that's part of our connection to the stars. The running of eels, the reproduction of fish, that's our connection to the stars. So it's not something that intuitively, even if we don't fully understand. But we kia ora.
Kia ora. I'd like to now ask Daniela for some thoughts, things that perhaps you're inspired by, but also we know that we are always inspired by you too. So if you wouldn't mind responding.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. The first thing I'd like to do is shout out to my brother, Juan Carlos. Are you there? Okay.
Right here.
Yeah. So I'm going to hold this up to my camera. Where is it? No. Can you see him?
Yes.
Okay, good. So he's been listening this whole time, and we have each other on FaceTime here. So anyway, he's with us here too. Do you want to say a few words, Juan Carlos?
If y'all can hear me, can everyone hear me?
Yes, they can.
They can hear me? Okay. So do you want me to give a quick introduction? Let me just do that. So let me just say to all our brothers and sisters and people of multiple spirits, we say Yosam Chani Avu. My Castilian Spanish name is Juan Carlos Chavez. Most people call me Carlos, but my indigenous name is Juan Dipiri, and short is Kwadi. And the reason why I am involved with this conversation is, first of all, Jody is a stellar person who brings us together in a good way. So I really appreciate and want to shout out to her for all her efforts. And I've had some technology issues, which is a paradox because I actually have a computer science background. So there you go, right? We just make it happen. And I want to share just something very quickly with you all because I really appreciate the elders and all the voices that have come up and said these beautiful things that really feed my soul as we continue forward. We talked about sharing our knowledge and sharing our stories of stars and the universe. And I'd like to add to that conversation a little bit by talking a little more about the numbers that we use. And in our traditions in the southwest of the states, where the desert is, it's called the Sonora Desert. You think about the stars and the relationship with the stars in a numeric way. Well, we believe our sacred brother and sister and multiple spirit animal is deer. We also use our hands in the desert to identify distance between stars and we navigate between the stars at night. The stars allows us to sacrifice the bodies for us. Late at night, so we come out to the desert, we know which way to walk because the stars tell us which way the Great Spirit has decided we should go to actually wake these animals. We are sacrificing their soul and spirit for us. And then inevitably, if we consume them, we return back to Mother Earth and come back up to the stars and the cosmos. One of the ways that we think about that is using our fingers. And multiple tribes within the Americas and First Nations, all these different lands, we use words, for example, like very small, to get them halfway, 1 feet, long spans. We use all these different words as mathematical equations that non-indigenous people not necessarily understand. For example, the claimant, say one name, that identifies a numeric value when we think about stars. So those words in the English language, and from our languages, don't translate very well. But it gives us an insight as to how the relationship with the stars is a numeric way of thinking, a quantitative way of thinking the world. The Western societies have not necessarily appreciated it because we don't have decoded it fully. And that's because we have private language or private words. Speaking of that, like for example, the Zuni, they say Kapita, which means taken to start with. Kuli, which means that finger put down with its leg. And so Hai, which means equally divided one. So these words, when our peoples are asked, do we know how to do math? Well, the fact is that we use math to navigate the world, to navigate the space, to look at the stars, and determine which way we are going to row on the moon, which way we're going to walk in the desert. And that brings me to the point of the Ojibwe communities of brothers and sisters who basically top off the million. So the Ojibwe number, the mathematics of the Ojibwe basically say that the largest E is 1 million. And then from there you add, so there's in the English language it's called etc. The Ojibwe have the top number is million and then etc., which is you add to that. And I don't know the language, but it goes basically from 1 million to 10 million. So it's an enumerations can be from 10 to 20s to thousands. That is one of the reasons our children look at the night and they can see certain things that a lot of times as adults, and as we become more and more engaged in Western thought, Western knowing, we forget that the innocence of a child is lost on us because we were programmed. Our number system was taken away from us. So for us, we think of the number 10 as a whole number.
Someone needs to mute.
Carlos? Thank you so much. I just wanted to let everybody know that we're having a bit of a hard time hearing what you're saying, Carlos. So we would like to extend an offering for our next session that we have, that perhaps you be one of our main activators, so we can make sure that we are able to hold space for all these important offerings that you're sharing tonight. But we are very happy to see your face. It makes us very happy. Thank you. I'd like to, we will come back to Carlos. Yes, we're getting some comments. Please come back to him. Of course we will. Daniela, I was wondering, thank you for bringing Carlos into this conversation. We really missed him at the beginning, and it is very nice to see his face. Would you mind responding a little bit to as well, perhaps what Carlos was speaking to, or some of your own ideations about the knowledges that were shared tonight?
Thank you. Yes, please. So apologies that didn't work out so well, but at least you're here, Juan Carlos. You can see my screen, so he's still with us. Great. So,
Daniela, I think you need to use your headset because it's not clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think I just dropped from the meeting.
Oh, that is
Nope.
much better. That is that's a lot better.
Better? Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. I had actually taken the headphones out to accommodate Carlos. So yes, thank you. I appreciate again the opportunity to be with you all tonight, and I have thoroughly benefited from all that our previous speakers have shared. I've been thinking. A couple of things have occurred to me to share. So my training is in Western scientific thought, methodology, and knowledge generation. So so I come to all of this through that lens and have over time, expanded from there. But what I see are so many resonances and overlaps and reiterations and reinforcements, perhaps, from the Western scientific way of knowing this question of what's going on with the stars and what's our relationship there. and those of Indigenous knowledge, which preceded it. And so the story that's coming through, the tellings that are coming through from the Western scientific community with respect to our relationship to the stars are these same knowings that we are completely interconnected. We are made literally, physically, of stuff that was produced by stars long ago, before our star and our solar system and our planet and our bodies and all the things that are on Earth came to be. There were stars before that lived and died. There were generations of stars that have lived and died, just as there are generations of us and other things too here. And so the matter, the physical matter in my body, in your body, in this computer, in this phone, in every single thing in this planet was made by a star for the most part. There are some atoms that are made differently, but in terms of the big atoms of life, carbon, calcium, iron, things like that, it was made by a star. And the idea is that in the early universe, the main piece of matter was hydrogen, which is the smallest atom known to us, the smallest bit of matter, if you will, known to us. And the stars are made of that. And as they mature, as they go through their life cycle, they get born, they live, they mature, and they die. And as they go through that life cycle, they convert that hydrogen, they fuse it, and they turn it into these other heavier elements like carbon and oxygen and nitrogen and calcium and even iron. So in that sense, literally the telling that's coming through is that stars are creators and they are making the matter in the physical sense of which we're made, and of which every single thing, again, pretty much on this planet is made, and really throughout most of the universe. The hydrogen, the telling comes to us from the Big Bang, which is all very interesting and shrouded in mystery, at least to me. But again, the stuff of life was made by a star. So despite all of the reductionist thinking, as you were saying, Kahu, and methodologies in science that would separate everything in order to understand it and break it down, despite all of that, the message that's coming through is one of total unity, of total interconnectedness and relationality. There is no thing that isn't intimately related on an atomic level to everything else. So I don't know, I still find myself sitting with that idea years later now, wondering, what would it be like if we really behaved that way? And so what's coming through to me as I mature in my relationships with the Indigenous communities and the knowledge that I've been blessed to have shared with me is that that's what goes on in Indigenous way of living and way of being, is that this, yes, it's known, it was already known that we're all connected in this way through star material and so forth. And yet there's so much more. There's original instructions. There's tellings of how to live out that truth of relationality and interconnectedness. And so that's where, science as a kind of baby system of way of knowing here in our culture, in our world of cultures, is just kind of coming to the table now and saying, yeah, I think we're all interconnected. I think we might be all from the stars. Yeah, that's the way it is. And hopefully now we can move forward with that and get into actual teachings about how to live that truth instead of just know it or know how it came to be. So that's what I've been meditating on all evening. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here, share with you, and learn from you.
Thank you, Daniela. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody for sharing so generously and kindly, giving of themselves to this conversation, this continual storying of intense intelligence, many intimacies and relationships, radical relationality that we can talk about, which is sourced from the stars as well within us. So thank you for all of this knowledge, and for bringing yourselves forward in such a way. We really appreciate you. We honor you, And I think I can speak for all of us. We're all inspired by you as well. So I'd like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude for all of the knowledge holders and knowledge carriers that are part of this this project tonight. So thank you so much. I'd also like to thank the organizers and thank all of you people that joined us tonight. Thank you for being present with us. I know that this digital moment in time is something that we're all learning about in terms of how do we express ethics of radical relationality in cyberspace as well as we talk about stars. So thank you for joining us tonight, and may you all be well. May you all have a beautiful evening, and for those our brothers in New Zealand, may you have a beautiful day. So thank you very much. And that is all.
I also appreciate being part of this huge platform. I really appreciate being connected with each of you, like Mr. Buck, you know, other people I wouldn't have got appreciation to meet before. I'm so happy.
Beautiful.
And special thank you to Karen for hosting tonight and being a wonderful moderator. Have a safe evening and stay safe and healthy, everyone. Good night.